This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Jacob Rees Mogg.
Hello, good morning. This is Jacob Rees Mogg for the LBC, the London Broadcasting Corporation, but actually I'm in Somerset. There is a fire going, the snowdrops are out, a few brave daffodils even are appearing in the garden, a slightly grey day, but as always, Somerset is the perfect place to be. Thank you for joining me. You can actually watch me live on Facebook if you're very technologically sophisticated, but if, like me, you're happier on a wind-up wireless, you can listen to me on that as well. What we're going to be discussing this morning, to start with, is Theresa May's speech yesterday in Munich. It was a very important speech on the issue of cooperation with the European Union once we've left on security and foreign policy. Mrs May, of course, as a very long-serving Home Secretary, has a particular expertise in this area. She was involved in the security issues around the European arrest warrant and the opt-in and opt-out that happened a few years ago to decide which bits of European security policy we would cooperate and which bits we'd do independently. But her speech set out how she thought we would do it in future, and it had some very important lines. She challenged the EU to say that their political doctrine and ideology could have real damaging consequences for the security of all our people in the UK and the EU. She's telling them not to put ideology ahead of getting a deal that allows us to cooperate. And she also said that we must be respectful of the sovereignty of both the UK and the EU's legal orders. So, for example, when participating in EU agencies, the UK will respect the remit of the European Court of Justice. That has raised some questions, though I think it's reasonably clear, because she went on to say that as a third country, we will have our own sovereign legal order. It's very interesting the way this is developing. It's a clear Brexit that Mrs May is setting out, but one with close cooperation. What she seems to want is that the structures that are in place now that have worked should be maintained, but they should be done on a basis of international cooperation in the way the United Kingdom operates with other third countries. So we have a very successful or very efficient extradition treaty with the United States. But the United States extraditions to the UK are determined by the US courts, and the UK extraditions to the US are determined by the UK courts. And Mrs May seems to be looking for something similar in terms of how we approach our future relations with the European Union. She emphasises that we will be taking back control of our foreign policy, that with a seat on the United Nations, foreign policy will be set in the UK for the UK. Now, that obviously doesn't mean that we won't continue to cooperate with our allies. That will be something that we do, and indeed is something that we have done not just for decades, but for hundreds of years. All sensible countries cooperate with their allies. But the Prime Minister is making it clear that we will be independent of the official structures of the European Union in this respect, so that the occasion in 2003 when, for example, a British representative had to be present at a conference with Robert Mugabe against our normal policy will not recur. Mrs May has really set this out, I think, very clearly, and it is her area of particular expertise, but it may be worth looking at what she said or hearing what she said, and this is what the Prime Minister, speaking in Munich about security after we leave the EU, did say, or a brief clip.
Changing the structures by which we work together should not mean we lose sight of our common aim, the protection of our people and the advance of our common interests across the world. So as we leave the EU and forge a new path for ourselves in the world, the UK is just as committed to Europe's security in the future as we have been in the past. Europe's security is our security. And that is why I've said, and I say again today, that the United Kingdom is unconditionally committed to maintaining it. The challenge for all of us today is finding the way to work together through a deep and special partnership between the UK and the EU, to retain the cooperation that we have built and go further in meeting the evolving threats we face together. This cannot be a time when any of us allow competition between partners, rigid institutional restrictions, or deep-seated ideology to inhibit our cooperation and jeopardise the security of our citizens.
That was Theresa May speaking yesterday in Munich, and this is Jacob Rees Mogg. I'm standing in for Nigel Farage. Last time I did it for James O'Brien, so it's now once for the left and once for the right. Do get in touch. You can call on 0345 6060 973. You can text on 84850, or you can tweet at LBC. We're discussing Mrs. May's Munich speech yesterday, and we've just had a clip from her. I accept that I am not as sound a Eurosceptic as Nigel Farage is, and so some of you who are expecting to hear him may think you've got a lightweight on, somebody who's weak on leaving the European Union, but I'm not too weak on it, and I actually think this speech is very welcome. I think the Prime Minister has set out a very clear position that Eurosceptics can be happy with, and there are two things I would like to highlight. One is the issue of the European Court of Justice, because people have been in touch with me to say, are we remaining under the European Court of Justice when the Prime Minister said we would respect the remit of the European Court of Justice in EU agencies? And my answer to that is no. If you're dealing with a foreign agency, that foreign agency is obviously subject to the courts of that foreign power. So if British law enforcement has a relationship with the FBI, the American Federal Bureau of Investigation, is obviously subject to the US courts in how it operates. And that would be similar in our cooperation with EU institutions. That is the normal state of affairs. But the other important thing I think is worth highlighting is brought out very clearly by the distinguished political commentator Tim Shipman in the Sunday Times this morning, when he read into the speech that it was a clear declaration that we would pull out of the common foreign and security policy, giving the UK full control of diplomacy, peacemaking, defence and overseas aid for the first time in 26 years. That is a genuine taking back of control, and that's why I want to discuss it with you to see whether I am being a bit soft and Nigel would be tougher if he were on, or whether you think that what I've got to say is broadly right. If you voted leave or remain, please get in touch. Your calls will be very welcome, and we'd like to go first to Peter in Wimbledon. If you're there, Peter, can you hear me?
Yes, very good morning.
Is Peter there? Good morning.
What I'd like to say is the issues, like all the other issues, unfortunately, before the referendum took place, neither yourself nor people on the Remain side actually explained enough in depth to the people of Britain what the consequences of leaving EU will be. And issues like customs union, single market, having Irish border reinstated, our financial sector losing EU trading passports, and issues of security, which are very important in this country. People voted blindly on a lot of things, hoping they're going to be able to have their cake and eat it. And unfortunately, if you want to have a deep relationship with the European Union, it's better staying within the European Union. And when you said about the European Court of Justice, it's important to work under one legal framework. Should we have disputes between European agencies and ourselves, then there should be one court who are going to make a final decision who's right, who's wrong. Our agency will operate under British law. European agency operate under European law. But what's going to happen when we're going to have disputes between two agencies or any kind of discrepancies? Because obviously we're going to have our legal framework, they're going to have their legal framework. And I just can't understand how it works. I think my point is that you guys, you kind of kept hidden quite a lot of facts about leaving European Union and led British public blindly towards this kind of Brexit mass disaster.
I wonder how much attention you paid to the referendum debate, because you say that nobody knew we were leaving the single market of the customs union. David Cameron told everybody that a vote to leave would be out of the single market and the customs union, and he accused Brexiteers of wanting us to be in a relationship with Europe akin to Albania. So that was very clear to people. And I think one of the key parts of Mrs. May's speech yesterday is her generosity to the EU. She's saying, we will never do anything that will reduce the security of our neighbours and of our friends. Don't you think that's an important starting point?
It's very important as a starting point. And the security is one we can be, our security services were we can be proud of. But unfortunately, we can't have the same relationship we had while we were a member of the European Union, and that applies to all aspects of our life, not only security. As I said before, it's customs union, single market. And
but we don't want...
A lot of leading Brexiteers like Daniel Hannan were saying that no one questions our membership in a single market, and it turned out to be not true. And you guys never talked about customs union, about having Irish border.
Well, I did, actually. I talked about the customs union, and the Irish border is going to remain open. That's one of the key commitments of both sides. But the point is, we voted to leave, and that means a different relationship with the European Union. That was what the whole vote to leave was about. But thank you very much for calling. I'm looking forward to lots of other calls. You're listening to Jacob Rees Mogg on LBC. I'm standing in for Nigel Farage. It is now 10:14 and 45 seconds, and we're just going to have a few messages.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
The voting age could be lowered to 16 before the next general election, so a former minister said. Charlie's in Brighton.
The decisions that are being made for our future are being made by people who haven't got the next generation's best interests. So we're going to be the ones that lead the future of this country.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
Right now at Homebase, all Crown 2.5 litre standard coloured emulsion is just 2 for £22. Homebase, always your home, always low prices. In-store only, excludes Pure Brilliant White and clearance outlets.
The square root of 6,250,000 is 2,500. Some slow maths for you there. Here's some quick maths. 1 year's free insurance plus up to 5 years 0% APR equals a whole load of amazing. And all yours when you buy Vauxhall's new Corsa Energy or Corsa Limited Edition on flexible finance. Search Vauxhall Free Insurance to find out more. Insurance underwritten by Ageas Insurance Limited. First year free insurance for 21 to 75-year-olds. Licence held a minimum 1 year. Additional T's and C's apply. See website for full details. Conditional sale. Finance subject to status. 21 plus. Vauxhall Finance. Offer ends 31st of March.
Apparently, there are still some people who say they don't want to apply for an Ocean credit card. That's amazing, because there's a credit limit of up to £1,500. Text so you keep control of your spending, and you can see if you'll be accepted before you apply at checkocean.co.uk without affecting your credit rating. But I know the real reason people say they don't want to apply, because they've already got one. To apply for an Ocean credit card, go to checkocean.co.uk. Intelligent Lending Limited is a credit broker. Capital One is the exclusive lender.
The transfer window may be closed, but at Football Index, you can still buy and sell top players for real cash. Football Index is the player trading exchange where you can profit from your football knowledge from as little as £10. Trade up to £1,000. And if you don't love Football Index, get a refund with our 7-day money-back guarantee. Visit gofootballindex.co.uk and become a football trader today. Powered by Opta. Over 18s and new customers only. Deposit required. Other terms apply. Gamble responsibly.
How's the chemotherapy going to make me feel?
Is your mum going to get better?
Can I go on that cancer drug trial I read about?
When do I know if my cancer's gone for good?
If you or your loved ones have questions about cancer, Cancer Research UK can help you find the answers. With years of research behind us, we can give you the expert guidance and information you need. Just go online and search Cancer Research UK today.
Climbing trees, chasing cars. There's no telling what your pet will get up to next. So keep them protected with Pets in a Pickle pet insurance. Go to petsinaapickle.co.uk.
This week at Tesco, get a large roasting beef joint for half price at £5 a kilo. Tesco. Every little helps. Selected stores excluding Express while stocks last ends 20th February.
This spring, get 2 tickets for £12 to the Legoland Windsor Resort with the Sunday Times. Celebrate the Year of the Brick with 5 new attractions on a day out worth up to £120. Simply collect 4 unique codes. Collect your first code in the Sunday Times this weekend. £1.50 booking fee. Terms and conditions apply.
Divorce. It threatens the things you've worked hard for in more ways than you can imagine. Your home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. Don't let divorce cost you any more than it has to. Cordell & Cordell is dedicated to helping men in matters relating to divorce. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Office in central London. A partner men can count on.
Jacob Rees Mogg on LBC.
Hello, this is Jacob Rees Mogg for LBC leading Britain's conversation. I'm standing in for Nigel Farage, and I'm hoping lots of you will ring up on this Sunday morning on 0345 6060 973, or send a text on 84850, tweet at LBC, or you can even watch on Facebook. But I've got a new caller coming in. We're discussing Mrs May's speech in Munich yesterday, and I'm glad to say a fellow Somerset man is calling in. So Mike in Taunton, are you there?
Good morning, Jacob. Yes, I am.
Good morning, Mike. Thank you for calling.
A two-part question, Jacob. Well, firstly, can I say thank you very much for everything that you're doing. It's very, very important, what you and Nigel and the rest are doing. My question is a two-part question, very quickly. Do you see Mrs May's speech as delivering the Brexit? It's a big-picture question. Is the Brexit that the millions of us who voted for in the referendum, is that going to be delivered? We know what we voted for. We voted for an independent Britain. Is that, following Mrs May's speech, is that going to be delivered? And the second part to my question is, have you seen QAnon post 774? I think you would be very interested in it.
Well, the answer to the second question is no, I haven't seen that post. But the answer to the first question is, I think yesterday's speech indicated everything was going in the right direction. There's this important set of speeches from leading ministers. I thought Boris Johnson, as Foreign Secretary, set out a very positive view of Brexit, which we need to remind ourselves about, that it is positive, that there are real economic opportunities from leading and being free of EU regulation. And I absolutely agree with your point that people knew what they were voting for. The British electorate is highly sophisticated and understands these issues. And there's a slightly condescending metropolitan view that people like us, rural dwellers, didn't know what we were doing. And everyone I met in the rural areas did know what they were doing. And so I'm encouraged by yesterday. I think being clear that we will be out of the European Court of Justice in relation to our security arrangements is the right sign to be giving. And being out of the common foreign and security policy is, again, absolutely what we ought to be doing. It is taking back control. And in my view, taking back control is what people voted for. Do you agree?
I do. And I'm glad to hear that you're optimistic because you're closer to it than the rest of us. But please do look at QAnon post 774. If you don't know QAnon, I urge everyone to get familiar with QAnon. Okay. This is more important than... It's to do with Brexit, and this is a global movement. It's not just a Brexit movement. This is Donald Trump. This is much, much bigger than just Brexit.
All right. Well, I won't give it an endorsement because I haven't seen it, but thank you, and thank you for the wisdom of Somerset, which is very much appreciated. Now, we've been getting some texts in. There's one from George in Luton, where there's a famous airport, and it says, "Dear Jacob, Theresa May's speech. Personally, I found it worrying that she stated that the EU arrest warrant will still be enforceable in the UK. Surely that means that the European Court will still have supremacy over UK courts. Perhaps you could explain a little further." Well, thank you for that question. I think it is a key point to raise. My understanding is that when the UK issues an arrest warrant to be enforced in continental Europe, that will come under the auspices of the European Court of Justice when it's enforced in continental Europe. But that if a European country or EU member state country issues an arrest warrant that will be applied in the UK, when it is applied in the UK, that will be under UK court jurisdiction. It will be exactly the same as if we asked to arrest somebody in the United States. The operation of it in the States will be under US law, but in the UK under UK law. So I hope that's some reassurance, but it is a crucial point, because I agree with you, if it were the case that the arrest warrant in the UK was subject to the ECJ, that would mean they had a jurisdiction that I would think would be improper. Oh dear, there's one speech from Sam at Worthing. Now Worthing is in Sussex, which isn't Somerset, so we'll have to forgive Sussex for sending in the view that the speech was useless. The reality is nothing will change fundamentally, and you know it. Well, I don't agree. Brexit in name only will be delivered. In my parenthesis, that would be disastrous, close parenthesis. You will run out of road of lies in March 2019. Well, that's Sam of Worthing's view. I must confess I don't agree, but Sam, thank you for getting in touch and for the clarity of your thought. Everyone knows where you stand, and have a feeling you may be a member of UKIP, though you may think even they're not sound enough. But now I'd like to go to Steve in Rickmansworth. Steve, are you there, and can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, Jacob. Thank you for taking my call.
Good morning. No, it's a pleasure.
Morning,
Thank you for calling.
No, I've been watching you for a few years now, Jacob, and I really like you. I trust you. I think you're the most honest politician there is. Just want to say that. And I just want to thank you for all the work you've done.
Well, that's really kind of you. What a nice call to make. And thank you for calling on a Sunday morning. It's a good start to the week to have such a friendly call. And what do you think of Mrs. May's speech in Munich? Do you think she's hit the right tone?
I hope so. I like Theresa May. I don't think she's got our interest at heart. I think it's very difficult to change your mind, we've all been through these situations in life where we have to go down a path we don't want to go, and I think that's the path. She's going down a path that she doesn't believe in. I think there's only one Prime Minister that we need, and I'm speaking to him now on the phone. I know you're very shy about it, but we all love you, Jacob. Honestly, we do. You're a very popular man. There's nothing. The best thing about you, Jacob, is there's nothing on you, and that can't be said for most politicians. So I just want to tell you that we love you, and I pray that you become my Prime Minister, and I would love to help you as much as I can. That's all I need to say. That's all I want to say to you, Jacob, because I don't want to get into the other subject because I don't know enough about it. But we really love you, Jacob, and this is not just me. This is the whole of Great Britain.
Well, Steve, thank you very much. That's enormously flattering, and I'll just reassure people that we're not in fact related, and I didn't pay you to call in. But I'm very grateful for your endorsement. But I'm, as you know, very much supporting Mrs. May, and reinvigorated support after yesterday's, I think, excellent speech. Do please keep on sending in your calls on 0345 6060 973 or texts. We've got a quite lengthy text that's come in. On the Conservative Party, claiming it's lost its identity, and it's getting almost biblical. A flock of sheep in the wilderness in need of a shepherd. Oh, then thinks I'm the shepherd. I'm not very agricultural, really. I do have a few sheep in Somerset. We keep 3 Jacob sheep to keep the grass down, which you can't hear baaing away in the field because they're just out of range. But that's a very kind... I can't see who this text is from, but it says the Liberal vocal will attack my belief, which indeed they will because it's a democracy, and that we're at a crossroads. Well, it's saying I should lead the country or Jeremy Corbyn will be Prime Minister. I think both are unlikely. Let's back Mrs. May because I think she's the person who can give us the leadership we need. But thank you for that anonymous, if somewhat embarrassingly flattering text. Now, I'd like to go to Elizabeth in Pinner. Elizabeth, are you there?
Yes, hello. Yes.
Hello, thank you for calling.
Well, I'm not a Tory, Jacob. Sorry, no disrespect.
That's all right.
I understand Mrs. May. I like the fact that Mrs. May comes from a working class background. It's what the Tory party needs. And every Prime Minister Europe has been their undoing. I voted to stay because especially when it comes to issues like security and information sharing, especially with all the recent incidents with terror attacks on the continent as well as in the UK. I think Theresa May has got the tone totally right. Even though I am not a Conservative supporter, I just think it is a big mistake to leave because underneath we're all European. None of us are pure English. I just think that, I always predicted, I'm even on YouTube saying Britain without borders, I always predicted that we'll never come out totally, that we'll always end up on the fringes and having to buy our way into possibly the single market, possibly the ECJ, but the European arrest warrant, like you say, should stay, and we should have very close ties for information sharing and security, especially with the recent terror attacks.
Well, don't you think that's what Mrs. May was offering in a generous offer to the European Union to say that though we won't be a member... Yes,
I do. I think it's so we should have that membership, but there are people maybe in the Tory party that ain't going to like that whatsoever.
Do you think so? Because, I mean, I'm reasonably Eurosceptic, and I'm happy with the speech. I think it's a good speech. You think it's a good speech. And can I thank you for calling? I'm really pleased that somebody who backed Remain has called in to give some balance to this debate. So I appreciate that, and somebody who isn't a Tory. But if it's united the two of us, do you think that's actually quite good for the country and will help bring us back together?
Sorry, Jacob, no disrespect to you.
OK. Well, thank you very much for calling anyway. You're listening to Jacob Rees Mogg on LBC, which stands for Leading Britain's Conversation, not, as I said before, the London Broadcasting Company, because we're in Somerset. And I'm standing in for Nigel Farage, and it is just coming up to 10:30. And that means what you've all been waiting for. It's time for the news with Amelia Cox.
The widower of murdered MP Joe Cox says a number of historic sexual assault allegations made against him have been vastly exaggerated. Brendan Cox has resigned from 2 charities he set up in his wife's name. 60 passengers and 6 crew have died after a plane crashed in southern Iran. Rescue helicopters have been unable to reach the site where the Usman Airlines flight came down because of foggy weather. Almost 200 British actors are to sign an open letter calling for an end to sexual harassment across all industries. Stars at tonight's BAFTAs Awards will wear black to show solidarity with the Time's Up movement. LBC weather, cloudy with outbreaks of rain spreading across the west. The north and east will remain dry and bright, highs of 10 degrees.
LBC travel, it's slow in Gants Hill. The A12 Eastern Avenue eastbound is blocked between the Gants Hill roundabout and Horns Road because of an accident. In Walthamstow, Black Horse Road is blocked northbound because of an accident at Forest Road near the Tube Station. In Tottenham, Lordship Lane is closed both ways because of a fire in a building between the A10 Bruce Grove and the High Road. In the West End, there are road closures because of the Chinese New Year celebrations, including Pall Mall East, Charing Cross Road, Shaftesbury Avenue and roads in Chinatown and Soho. And in Cheshire, the A56 Chester Road eastbound in Runcorn is blocked. That's because of vans overturned at Wood Lane. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC.
At the third stroke, the time sponsored by Cunard will be any time you like. Time to stop. Time to relax. Time to indulge. Time to love. Showtime. Time for a voyage with Cunard.
I am your sanctuary, your little nest, your space to grow, your place to rest. I'm a reflection of you and all your stuff, a welcome sight when your day's been tough. I'm where memories are made in every room, where families and relationships bloom. I'm the 4 walls you call your own, the happy place that you call home.
Whatever makes your ideal home, M&S Bank now offer mortgages with £1,000 cash back on first-time buyer mortgages. Search M&S Bank Mortgages. Terms and conditions apply. Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up your payments on your mortgage.
You can take off, fly and land a Boeing 737 from just about any airport in the world. 100. Without even leaving the city 30. At Flight Experience London. An officially licensed Boeing product. It's the ultimate flight simulator used for real pilot training. Our amazing sale is now on with prices from just £99. Book online at london.flightexperience.com for the ultimate gift and take to the sky at Flight Experience London.
Right now at Homebase, there's 3 for 2 on all wallpaper. That's amazing value. Homebase, always your home, always low prices. Cheapest item free, in-store only, excludes clearance outlets.
This spring, get 2 tickets for £12 to the Legoland Windsor Resort with the Sunday Times. Celebrate the Year of the Brick with 5 new attractions on a day out worth up to £120. Simply collect 4 unique codes. Collect your first code in the Sunday Times this weekend. £1.50 booking fee. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Michael Owen and I know what it's like to be injured. If you've been injured and it's not your fault, you need to speak to Gowing Law. Text WIN to 80800 and Gowing Law will do the rest.
Thanks, Michael. If you've been injured on the road or at work, Gowing Law can tell you instantly what you might be owed. Find out right now and text WIN to 80800. You could be owed thousands.
So win with Gowing. Text WIN to 80800.
A new Vauxhall Vivaro comes with 4 years 0% APR representative, up to 4 years warranty and 4 years servicing and roadside assistance. It's easy to drive, easy on the wallet and even easier on the eye. That leaves you free to do more of what you do best. Less getting the van sorted, more getting the job done. Search Vauxhall Vivaro. Conditional sale, 4 years 0% APR representative, minimum 20% deposit plus VAT at 20% on total price. Financed by Vauxhall Finance, subject to status 18+. T's and C's, mileage limitations and exclusions apply.
This week in the middle aisle of Lidl, 2 offers that will blow you away. Get a powerful 50-litre air compressor for £119. And a range of compatible accessories from £9.99. Available from Sunday the 18th of February. Get there first. Subject to availability, and may vary selected stores while stocks last.
Time for a voyage with Cunard. Visit cunard.com.
Jacob Rees Mogg on LBC.
Hello, this is Jacob Rees Mogg for LBC, leading Britain's conversation from Somerset, and I'm standing in for Nigel Farage, one former leader of UKIP. But this programme specialises in former leaders of UKIP, and I'm very glad to say that Henry Bolton will be joining us after 11 o'clock to have a discussion on what's happening to that party. In the meantime, we're discussing Mrs May's speech in Munich yesterday, what she said about security policy, the arrest warrant, how we cooperate with our friends in Europe when we're not any longer a member of the European Union. Calls are coming through thick and fast, but you can add your name to the list if you call 0345 60 60973, and you can watch on Facebook. And I can look directly at a little camera that I believe is beaming this to people glued to their computer screens watching it live on Facebook. You can text on 84850 or tweet at LBC. So it's Mrs May's speech in Munich. Is it what we wanted to hear? Is it something Leavers and Remainers can unite over and support as it sets out a generous policy of cooperation, but one that we take back control, no longer subject to the ECJ and no longer part of the common foreign security policy with the requirements that come with it? I'd now like to go, if I may, to Charles in Birmingham. Charles, are you there from the United Kingdom's second city?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I do watch Mrs May's speeches, and yesterday I was not impressed because, to me, she had put something on the table that shouldn't even be on the table. It should be given, and that is security. That shouldn't even be in negotiations. It shouldn't be discussed. It should automatically be there, no matter what, for any country. Now she's put this on the table, the EU will use this as a bargaining chip to get more what they want. Every time she does a speech and put something on the table, the EU uses it against us. We should have no more speeches. She should go to internal negotiations with what she wants privately because when she walks in, they know what she wants and they use it as a bargaining chip. But security, no matter what, shouldn't it be on the table? Shouldn't it be discussed? It should be a standard for any country, especially the world we live in right now.
Can I quote a bit of Mrs May's speech to you? Because I think you agree with her and she agrees with you. She said, Europe's security is our security, and that is why I have said, and I say again today, that the United Kingdom is unconditionally committed to maintaining it. And don't you think that was the right and generous tone for her to take?
Yes, but the EU, you and I know the EU, especially the two we're dealing with, will say, OK, you want it unconditionally, but we want on conditions. You know what they're like, and that's what they will do. Whatever we put, they always put conditions on it, and that is the problem with saying anything in the open before you go and speak to them. You must keep it close to your chest and then speak to them later.
But don't you think that as we contribute more to their security than vice versa, I mean, it's another point Mrs May makes in her speech, that the UK arrests 8 people on a European arrest warrant for every one that we issue to other member states, so that we're the pretty much biggest individual contributor to European security, so they need us rather more than we need them.
Yes, but the 27 might see it that way, each individual leader, but these two don't see it that way. Barnier and Juncker see it as a bargaining chip, and that is the problem with them. If you were dealing with each individual country leader, yes, you could say, yes, we'll agree this, but you're dealing with two very stubborn men that want everything their own way and to give us nothing, and that is a problem I have.
Well, Charles, I think you cut through to the heart of the matter. I think that's a really important point, and that the 27 individual leaders are more reasonable than the EU ideologues, and I think that's why it's important Mrs May set out that we should get an agreement regardless of this hardline ideology in favour of a European Union superstate, which Mr Juncker denied, but he must be forgetting the 5 Presidents report that set out a European superstate a couple of years ago. Thank you for calling. Before I go to the next caller, we've had some people saying they can hear some crackling in the background. Now, this is not a problem with the line or the satellite signal coming from Somerset. It's the fire. During the adverts, we put a couple of logs on the fire, and the new logs are sparkling and crackling away. So I hope it doesn't disturb you too much. We'll now go to Lorraine in Chelmsford, if she's there, to hear what she's got to say about Mrs May's Munich speech. Hello, Lorraine.
Hello, Jacob. How lovely to speak to you. I am a leaver. I will tell you that now.
Good, thank you.
My big concern is I believe that we're getting involved in EU integration with regards to our military and also the procurement. I believe Germany wants to do the manufacturing of all weaponry, etc. I don't know if you've seen Veterans for Britain's website, but
I know of it, yes.
Yeah, I think you should look at that because I think we're having the wool pulled over our eyes. I don't think the intention is of our civil servants, Mrs May, that we will be independent military, and I'm really cross about that because, as far as I'm concerned, who controls the military controls the country.
I mean, I agree with you that the control of the military is absolutely essential. I get the impression from what Mrs May has been saying that she views NATO as being more important than the European Union in this regard, and that once we've left, we won't be subject to any EU command structures. So we'll cooperate, and even in procurement, there are some cost advantages in cooperating with other countries, and we do it a great deal with the United States. So I wonder if that's some reassurance for you that outside the EU we'll be in a much better position to avoid the single European army.
Well, since November 2016, Britain has taken place in 5 meetings in the EU with regards to our military and our finance and our manufacturing. You know, I think that she's planning, and our civil servants are planning on actually integrating our military to a certain extent, and I'm not happy about that. I think we should be independent completely and align with NATO with that.
Well, I absolutely agree with you.
We're also a very proud nation. You know, our military service has always been something of pride for a lot of
Lorraine,
Britons.
I agree with you that NATO is the key to our defence, and thank you very much for calling. I think what you've said will ring a chord with many people. But I'd now like to go to Chris in Teesside. Chris, what did you think of Mrs May's Munich speech? Did you think it hit the spot, or do you have some concerns?
I think in terms of the speech, I think the speech was very... it was what you'd expect from such a summit. And I think generally on the issue of security, the one thing I wanted to pick up on, and it's something that you alluded to earlier, about the Irish border. Now, there's many, many issues there. But I still don't quite understand on the issue of security, and also probably the biggest issue of Brexit, immigration. Nobody wants a hard border. And you said there's been guarantees made on the Irish border. But I just don't understand on a security front and an immigration front how you can not have a hard border and retain basically the premise of what people want in terms of Britain coming out of the EU. Because, you know, the DUP don't want Northern Ireland to have the same deal as the rest of the UK. Yeah, they don't want a hard border in the Irish Sea. And there's so many things about that dynamic that I just do not understand, and I don't think there's clarity on it. And I think it falls under the security issue as well.
Can I try and give you some reassurance? On the issue of immigration, the Republic of Ireland isn't a member of Schengen, and therefore there are controls on people going into the Republic of Ireland, and that immigration controls in relation to work or renting a house or opening a bank account take place with the employer, the landlord, and with the bank. So that if you want to come into the country and work illegally after we've left from Europe or anywhere else in the world, you might just as well come in through Heathrow on a tourist visa and overstay, but there will be no greater risk of having an open border between the Republic of Ireland and the United Kingdom, and that in terms of trade, we'll be an independent country, and it will be up to us to say that we don't actually want to put any tariffs on Irish goods. We don't want to put any non-tariff barriers on Irish goods, and therefore we will be free to maintain the border. So both from a security immigration point of view and from a customs point of view, there's a very straightforward solution. And then you're pushing it back to the EU and the Republic of Ireland to say, we don't want a border, do you? And the Republic of Ireland certainly doesn't, and therefore you're just left with the EU ideologues, and you have to say to them, this is not in anybody's interests. So I think the Irish border problem is very soluble. One quick text, somebody asking me to clarify the better bill. I assume it means the Brexit bill. Mrs May says it's 30 to 40 billion, but this figure is arrived after deducting 53 billion that the EU owes us. What is the bill and how is it arrived at? It's arrived at through making contributions to the end of the current financial period at the end of 2020, and then committed but unspent EU money. So that's basically where it comes from. I happen to think it's too high. But now it's time to go over to the messages, and you're listening to Jacob Rees Mogg on LBC, standing in for Nigel Farage. It is 10:45. I'm 11 seconds behind schedule.
This is LBC.
Sorry, Mrs Mills. Your boiler needs replacing.
Oh no, what would you recommend?
Well, I see you've got a Bosch washing machine.
Yes, it's never let me down.
Exactly. I'd recommend a Worcester Bosch Green Star 29 CDI. It's really reliable and it's been awarded a Best Buy from Which. And with the Bosch Easy Control, you can even adjust the heating from your phone. So simple, your cat could do it. To find your new boiler, a local installer, and receive up to a 10-year guarantee, search Warm as Worcester.
Why, hello. It's me, Dracula. Relax. I don't bite. Much. Unlike the cost of some broadband deals. That's why I switched to Sky Fibre Unlimited. Just £25 a month, including line rental, plus a $9.95 setup fee, exclusively for new and existing Sky TV customers. Frightfully good value. It's totally unlimited, super fast, and they'll never slow you down, even at peak times. Well, you don't want anything to stop the flow when you're screaming. Sorry, streaming, do you? Search Sky Fibre. Sky. Believe in better. Available to new fibre customers in Sky Fibre areas. New 18-month contract. Check speeds at sky.com. Further terms apply.
Ready to add some tile style? At B&Q, you can do it for less with low prices across our tiling range. Like fossilised wood ceramic wall and floor tile for just £13 per square metre. So if you're ready to kickstart your tiling project, you can do it when you B&Q it. Tile £13.91 per pack.
This spring, get 2 tickets for £12 to the Legoland Windsor Resort with the Sunday Times. Celebrate the Year of the Brick with 5 new attractions on a day out worth up to £120. Simply collect 4 unique codes. Collect your first code in the Sunday Times this weekend. £1.50 booking fee. Terms and conditions apply.
The square root of 6,250,000 is 2,500. Some slow maths for you there. Here's some quick maths. 1 year's free insurance plus up to 5 years 0% APR equals a whole load of amazing. And all yours when you buy Vauxhall's new Corsa Energy or Corsa Limited Edition on flexible finance. Search Vauxhall Free Insurance to find out more. Insurance underwritten by Ageas Insurance Limited. First year free insurance for 21 to 75-year-olds. Licence held a minimum 1 year. Additional T's and C's apply. See website for full details. Conditional sale. Finance subject to status. 21 plus. Vauxhall Finance. Offer ends 31st of March.
Sometimes knowing what to do with your savings can be a little confusing. But with NS&I, you can relax because our new fixed-rate guaranteed growth bonds and guaranteed income bonds give you returns that are guaranteed. You can invest from £500 up to £1 million in each issue for 1 or 3 years. And because we're backed by HM Treasury, every pound is 100% secure. Enjoy peace of mind at nsandi.com. NS&I. Safer savings set you free.
At Boots Opticians, we're here to help you discover a stylish new look for less. We've got thousands of frames to choose from, so speak to us and together we'll find the perfect pair for you. In fact, with 2 pairs from £75, why stop at just 1? Book in store or at boots.com. Boots, let's feel good 2 for £75 on Boots £50 glasses as part of our half-price additional pairs offer. Both pairs must be bought for the same customer in the same transaction, subject to availability. See in store.
This is LBC with Jacob Rees Mogg. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Well, welcome back. I'm Jacob Rees Mogg, standing in for Nigel Farage, and we're discussing Mrs May's Munich speech yesterday, and we've had lots of people getting in touch, and people can watch live on Facebook if they want to, and we've had a text from a black taxi driver, and as a rule I will always hear the views of taxi drivers, as Disraeli called them the gondoliers of London, so thank you for getting in touch. And he says that he's relieved Mrs May didn't use her speech to get support for Uber, which he thinks is disgraceful and is decimating the taxi service by its corruption. So thank you for that view from one of London's fine taxi drivers. What a British sight they are. I always feel proud to be British when I see a taxi, and very often relieved with that yellow light gleaming in the distance when it's raining, and you hope that nobody will get it before you. But I want to go, in fact, to Daniel in Stoke Newington to hear what he's got to say about Mrs May's speech. Daniel, are you there?
Hello, Jacob. How are you? Can you hear me?
Well, thank you. And you?
Yeah, not too bad.
Loud and clear, yes.
Fantastic. Wonderful. So I'm a Remainer. I have to lead off with that one, really.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs May's speech on several levels was very nice. She wants to keep in place several different security elements with the European Union, which I think is important. Although what I've noticed is that rather conflicts with what you said a few weeks back, using the term vassal state about Britain. And I wonder how you and other members of the Conservative Party can hold both of these ideas in your brains at once. It seems like 1984 doublespeak to me, and I was wondering if you might be able to fill me in on what you mean by a vassal state.
The vassal state was a reference to the proposal that we would have to accept all new EU laws and be subject to the European Court of Justice. That would be a worse position than we're in currently, because we would have no say in these laws, and it would also be worse because the EU would be able to pass laws that we can currently veto. So there are still areas of European regulation creation that are subject to unanimity. In the period once we've left, in the transition period, we obviously won't have a vote, and it would be perverse if we had to accept laws that we currently veto and have therefore stopped in an interim period between the date of departure and the conclusion of the final agreement. That's what I meant by vassal state, and being under the European Court of Justice would mean that our superior court was a foreign court in which we had no representation. I think that's a position we ought to avoid, and is not going to be created by what Mrs May said yesterday. But you think otherwise. Why do you think what she said yesterday will leave us as a vassal state?
Well, no, I don't think it'll leave us as a vassal state. In that, I didn't want.
Well,
to, I didn't
then
want
we agree.
In the first place. Well, no, this is the
first
thing.
place. Yes,
but forgive me, I just have to get this one in, just because I'm in a lucky position to
do
to
please. Yes,
on public television, radio. But when you've just said live on public radio that the UK had a veto in Europe. Now, that's very, very interesting, because I read so many times in the run-up to the referendum and since that the UK has lost its veto. Now, to hear
well, it has lost its veto in many areas.
Has it? Because
we've got to deal with it.
This is the problem, and again, we've got this doublespeak. On the one hand, you've just said, but we'll lose our veto, but then on the other hand, you say we have already lost our veto. Now, I find this one very difficult.
Both of those.
Which one is it?
Well, both of those statements are true. That we have a veto on tax policy, we have a veto on the multi-annual financial framework, we have a veto on the common foreign and security policy. We do not have a veto on the common agricultural policy, the common fisheries policy, single market regulations. That veto has been given up successively over the treaties post the Treaty of Rome, but some vetoes still remain. So this is a perfectly consistent point, and the key to understanding the European Union and our relationship with it is in the detail, and that's where the answer to your question comes. But we're going to go from Daniel to Dan. Dan, you're in Crawley, and I'd very much like to know your views on the speech of the Prime Minister in music. Dan, are you there?
Yes, Jacob, I am. Good morning. Pleasure to speak to you.
Good morning. Well, thank you for calling in.
No, that's quite all right. Yes, I thought Mrs May's speech was admirable, actually, and I think the position of our government is admirable in this, because I feel that Britain, since the referendum result came clear, we've been treated with quite a bit of spite and bitterness and contempt by EU leaders, particularly the likes of Juncker and Barnier. And I feel that on the issue of security, it could be very easy for Britain, because I feel that we contribute more than we take. It could have been very easy for our government to withhold a lot of security and use it as a bargaining chip and say, you're not going to get this unless we get X, Y, and Z. But, you know, the issue of security affects the average citizen, and it's French people and German people and Dutch people that would probably suffer more from that. Because, you know, in these times we live in with terrorism and organised crime, it's real citizens that would probably end up losing their lives potentially if we took that stance. So I think it's an admirable position, because I think that certain other people, if they were in charge, might use the position of power that Britain finds itself in this issue to treat the EU with a bit of vitriol in return.
Well, I completely agree with you, and I think it's really important that the Prime Minister was generous in what she set out yesterday. I think in a negotiation it is right to be generous about the things that you know are in everybody's interests, and not be mean-minded about it, and not to use it in a way that would undermine the UK's reputation as a country in favour of law and order and stability. So, Dan, thank you very much for your point. And I'm now going to go to Gary in Frome. Frome is one of the loveliest towns in Somerset, a really elegant place. So I'm very glad to have a caller from Frome. Gary.
Hi, Jacob. Well, first of all, I just want to say that I'm a massive fan of yours, along with many other people in this country. There's a growing community of people around here who really believe that you and just a few others are the only people that are standing up and defending this country now. And I mean that. We really do feel that the government is not doing what we voted for. And this country took a massive gamble, a hell of a gamble in leaving the EU, and that is why we want to go. We need to go. Now, everybody I speak to, either on social media or in the street, up and down the country, they just don't believe now that we are going to get what we voted for. Now, Theresa May's speech the other day was fantastic. It was great. I'm fair play to her for doing that. But nobody believes that she is going to deliver what we have asked for. It's all smoke and mirrors. It really is. And it's now time that we stop and we get somebody in who has this country in its heart, who wants to give us back what we stand for and we need. And you are the only person who can do that, we believe. I know it's a huge thing to have on your shoulders, I understand that, but nobody believes in Theresa May and in this country's being given what we need, because every time we turn on TV, we see Question Time, which is bias, we see the BBC News, which is just lies. Nothing is being done fairly.
Well, thank you for your personal vote of confidence, but I'd have more optimism about where the government is going. I actually thought yesterday's speech was really important, because it was so clear that out, in fact, means out. It's back to Brexit means Brexit. It has a great clarity about it, that we will be taking back control. There isn't any fudge in yesterday's speech. And perhaps in the other bits of the negotiations, there will inevitably be some give and take, some bits that we will accept that we don't want to accept, in the aim to get a friendly relationship with the European Union at the end of it. So I give your vote of confidence to Mrs May. I think she is heading on the right lines, and that she understands the power of democracy. Did you see the response she gave to some former German ambassador who said it would be better if you didn't leave? And she said the British people have voted to leave. I thought that was Thatcher-esque in its clarity. Do you agree with that, or you're not reassured? No, he's gone. He's gone. Oh, I'm sorry about that. It was very nice talking to him. We've had a text asking to explain to a business student what impact a no-deal end result would actually have, which is a very important question. I think we could survive a no-deal because we'd be in charge of our laws and that we would be able to keep sensible things going with the European Union. But we're coming up later looking at UKIP with its request for its 7th leader in 18 months. Henry Bolton was sacked yesterday after party members backed a vote of no confidence. What do you think? Do you think this spells the end of UKIP as a political party? Will Nigel Farage have to come back? Will a new party have to be formed? Should all UKIP members join the Tory party? If you think there's no way back for UKIP, then call 0345 6060 973. If you think they've recovered from a lot worse, then text 84850. Or maybe you think UKIP Mark II will emerge. If so, tweet at LBC. You can watch me on Facebook live from Somerset with a crackling fire in the background.
On FM, online, on your mobile and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 11 o'clock, the Education Secretary has suggested university tuition fees should partly be based on how a degree could benefit a student's future. It says Theresa May is expected to announce the annual tuition fees cap will be reduced from £9,000 to £6,000. Financial journalist Anne Ashworth has told LBC student debt is a growing burden for graduates.
People do not really feel comfortable with that level of debt, and many of them privately question whether what they received at their university, and no controversial thought, was actually worth it.
It says the Commons Treasury Committee is calling for the government to reconsider how it calculates interest rates on student loans. The husband of the murdered MP, Jo Cox, has quit 2 charities he set up in her memory following allegations of sexual assault. Brendan Cox denies assaulting a woman in 2015 but admits behaving inappropriately while working for Save the Children. He stepped down from More in Common and the Jo Cox Foundation. Shadow Housing Secretary John Healey says it was the appropriate thing to do.
He's clearly done the right thing, and I'm sure he and the rest of us don't want his position and this to get in the way of the really good work that is being done by those 2 charities in Joe's memory, both here and in the wider world.
All 66 people on board a commercial flight which has crashed in southern Iran have been killed. A spokesman for Uzman Airlines has told State TV there are no survivors after the aircraft came down near the remote town of Semirom. Avon and Somerset police have confirmed a man jailed for the rape and murder of a woman in the 90s has absconded from prison. Keith Whitehouse was last seen at Leyhill Prison in South Gloucestershire yesterday evening. The Home Secretary is being urged to issue a medical cannabis licence for a 6-year-old boy whose epilepsy improves after taking the drug. Alfie Dingley suffers from a rare form of the condition and has previously had 3,000 seizures in a year. His parents say after taking a cannabis medication while in the Netherlands last September, his seizures reduced. And England are out of the T20 Tri-Series despite a 2-run win over New Zealand in Hamilton. England needed to reduce their host to at least 174, but they went way past that to book a decider with Australia on Wednesday. LBC weather, cloudy with outbreaks of rain spreading across the west. The north and east will remain dry and bright, highs of 10 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Amelia Cox.
At Homebase, create a home you'll love with leading paint brands in a huge range of colours. And right now, all Crown 2.5 litre standard coloured emulsion is just £2 for £22. That's amazing value to refresh your home. Don't miss out. Homebase, always your home, always low prices. In-store only, excludes Pure Brilliant White and clearance outlets.
LBC travel, it's looking slow in Gants Hill in London. The A12 Eastern Avenue eastbound is blocked between the Gants Hill roundabout and Horns Road because of an accident. In Walthamstow, Black Horse Road is blocked northbound because of an accident at Forest Road near the tube station. In central London, road closures are in place because of the Chinese New Year celebrations that start at midday, including Pall Mall East, Charing Cross Road, Shaftesbury Avenue and roads in Chinatown and Soho. And in the West Midlands, it's very slow on the M5 in both directions through the roadworks between Junction 3 for Halesowen and Junction 1 for West Bromwich. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
The massacre at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida has claimed at least 17 lives. And Nancy Ankrum, who's editor for the Miami Herald, will there ever be a tipping point where there will be gun control, do you believe, Nancy?
There was a time, 20 years ago, there was an assault weapon ban. However, it did expire in 2004, and sales have been off and running ever since.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast, every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Jacob Rees Mogg.
Hello, this is Jacob Rees Mogg. I'm in Somerset to try and lead Britain's conversation today, and we're going to have an interview with Henry Bolton, the former leader of UKIP, in a moment. But let's just look at what's happened to UKIP since the referendum, that it's got its 7th leader in 18 months, that after Nigel Farage it seems to have been almost unleadable. Mr Bolton had a vote of no confidence in him by the National Executive Committee, then confirmed by an extraordinary general meeting. They've got a temporary leader in place. The rating of UKIP in the polls has declined very significantly from where it was. And I suppose the questions that arise is, does UKIP now have any great purpose? Has it achieved its main object? Did it, with Nigel Farage in winning the referendum in 2016, do what it had set out to do? And therefore, does it need to be reformed in a different way? Is it unleadable? Is it so independent-minded, such a strongly held group of individual views, that it can't be led as an individual party, as a specific party? Or can it come back from its current low rating in the polls, its lack of leadership? And the way it's gone in leadership is hard to believe, actually. It's gone through so many leaders who have then got into difficulty one way and another. Where do these difficulties come from? Is there somebody trying to undermine it from within? Is there somebody pulling strings that make it very difficult? I'm hoping Henry Bolton can help us answer some of these questions and can give us a view as to what the future for UKIP is, because even as a Conservative, I recognise that UKIP played a really important role, and obviously particularly Nigel Farage, who I'm standing in for today, in getting the vote that led to us voting to leave the European Union. Without UKIP, that wouldn't have happened. But I just wonder whether history has passed on from UKIP now. So, Henry Bolton, you're in the London studio, you're in Leicester Square. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Jacob. Yes, good morning.
Thank you. It can't have been an easy few weeks for you. Could you give your view of how things have gone?
Yeah, it has been a tad bumpy, I'd agree. Sort of quite relieved to have a slightly quieter day today. I mean, you've just asked some extremely pertinent questions with regards to the party, and indeed it was those questions that, in a sense, I wanted the party to answer, and unfortunately it's answered in a way that I think is quite unfortunate and doesn't help it going forward. The question as to whether or not UKIP's done its job, well, indeed, the great purpose of UKIP was really to bring about that referendum and the decision to leave the European Union. But perhaps it hadn't thought forward to what that actually meant, how we translate leaving the European Union into how we convert that into a trajectory coming out of the European Union that actually sets up the United Kingdom in a good way for the future. So, frankly, the party dropped the ball after the referendum, and it's been rather neglected since.
But what about your role? You became the leader, then your personal life intervened. How responsible do you feel personally for what happened to you?
Well, of course, the situation in my personal life created an opportunity for those people within the party that had never accepted my leadership in the first place to express themselves. And indeed, again, you asked the question, are there people within the party trying to undermine it? I wouldn't say there are people trying to undermine it, but that disparate group of political views that were gathered together under the large, sort of all-encompassing banner of Brexit have now had an opportunity to express themselves in a clearer manner, and indeed have been quite divisive in doing so. So I think, yes, I created the initial opportunity, but it's been exploited in a damaging way.
But how much responsibility do you take? Because it must have been difficult for you and for Miss Marnie being at the centre of this media storm, but it also has done a lot of damage to UKIP. Do you think that in the circumstances you found yourself in your personal life, you should actually resign from the leadership first rather than having to put UKIP through a complicated deselection process?
Well, I think had those messages that Jo Marnie had put out been of a fully public nature, had she put them into the public domain, and a lot of people actually think that she did, but indeed they were historical messages put out in a one-to-one conversation on Facebook and not in the public domain at all. They were made public later, and indeed were...
Does that really matter, whether they're public or private? Don't you think that racist views that are expressed in private are still pretty unpleasant?
I agree, and indeed I've said as much, but I think also, there is a question there as well as to how the party responded to the fact that there are people within the party who have deliberately used this to harm the party by undermining the leadership.
They couldn't have used it deliberately if it hadn't been written in the first place, could they?
Correct, but the two things in combination have done the harm. It's not one, it's not the other. It's both. Both would have done harm separately, but together, indeed, I think they've created a situation now that is almost impossible for the party to pull itself out of. And bear in mind as well that nobody on the National Executive Committee voted for me in the leadership contest. Ever since I became leader, many of them have continued to support failed leadership candidates, and indeed,
but almost two-thirds vote against you at the EGM yesterday, so it's not just your enemies on the National Executive Committee.
No, indeed, it's not. But there is quite an outcry in the party that this wasn't put to a postal ballot of all the members. Many people couldn't make it. It's a long way to travel for people, and there's a lot of dissatisfaction about that.
But aren't you evading your personal responsibility by trying to blame it onto others? That UKIP is in a mess, in part because of your personal life and information that came into the public domain of an unpleasant kind, and that shouldn't you stand up and take it on the chin and say, effectively, mea culpa?
The NEC had a vote of no confidence in me. The constitutional process is that then goes to an EGM. It went to an EGM so that the members who elected me could decide what they wanted to do, and that's what I've done. So yes, I could have resigned earlier, but you know what? I actually believe that there is a greater job to be done here, and that is that we, as a party, should be unifying and putting out the message on leaving the European Union and shaping that debate on the trajectory that we come out of it on.
You clearly weren't doing that job of unifying. You were clearly dividing. And because the tweets or the social media comment was racist in nature, it was allowing all the anti-UKIP stereotypes to come to the fore, and that was doing enormous harm to your party, for which you had responsibility. And then you say, well, there's a detailed process. But there's also a very simple process that you stand up and say, I resign, and you could have done that, and that might have helped solve the problem for the party sooner.
I received huge support from across the country within the party and encouragement to stay on. Those people also have a right to be heard and to be represented. And indeed, my whole...
But you weren't unifying the party, were you?
No, but change is often something that people don't like.
But you wanted to unify it.
Yes, but Jacob, what had happened...
But you were dividing it.
What had happened is, in the leadership campaign, I was elected on a platform of reforming the party. Now, when you try to bring about change within a party, then you'll know well that there's a great degree of resistance, and indeed that resistance was there. We came to the point where I started talking about reform within the party, and indeed the very unfortunate timing of the very unfortunate circumstances around my private life created a situation that made that very, very difficult indeed.
But shouldn't you therefore have realised you weren't the right person to unite the party?
But
Isn't that obvious? Anyway,
Jonathan Arnott MEP resigned saying that he felt that the party was not leadable because of its factions. What I was trying to do was unite them, and indeed I failed in that. Yes, I certainly fully take some of the blame for that.
Now you're not leading the party, are you and Miss Marnie reunited? Is that some unity you've created?
We talked about it last night. It's a bit early to say what's going to happen in my private life, Jacob. I've said all along in this.
Well, I'll let that be private. You're entitled to a private life. So I'll ask you a more political question, and that is: do you want to see Nigel Farage to return? Is he the only man who can lead UKIP, or the only one of you who can herd cats?
Jacob, Nigel is a giant of British politics, and particularly around the European Union question. But I honestly think that the party cannot be united now. I think that's very unfortunate. So do you think we need a UKIP Mark II, or do you think your Tory-inclined members should just reunite with the Tory party? Stop recruiting, Jacob. No, definitely not. Look, I think we will see the party take quite a lurch to the right now. I think we've seen that already with Gerard Batten's comments this morning. I think that the main bulk of the party doesn't really want to go in that direction. It wants to think about shaping the future of the United Kingdom in a comprehensive manner. What will emerge in the coming days and weeks, we have yet to see. But I suspect strongly that there are a lot of people in the party who are going to be looking around for another political home.
Do you think after Brexit is complete there will be a role for UKIP, or that will be it?
Well, in a sense, that's what my efforts have been all about. Can we to be able to shape or to influence British politics beyond the 29th of March 2019? UKIP is going to have to change. It is a bit of a protest party still at the moment, and if it wants to be a serious, grown-up and dominant influence in British politics going forward beyond Brexit, then it needs to change. It has to change. It's not fit for purpose in that respect now. So I rather fear that what happened yesterday is that change was rejected for whatever other reasons, but it's been rejected, and it's going to be weakened as a result.
End there, but can I thank you very much for coming on, that it can't be a great day for you today, and I appreciate your having the courage to put your head above the parapet and talk to me this morning.
Thank you, Jacob.
You're listening to Jacob Rees Mogg on LBC. I'm standing in for Nigel Farage, and it is 16 minutes past 11.
LBC and its sister stations from Global bring you the Global Awards, celebrating the biggest stars from the worlds of music, news and entertainment.
And the award for Best News Moment, Interview or Debate goes to
an incredible night of live performances from Andrea Bocelli and Sam Smith. And you could be there. Go to lbc.co.uk for a chance to win tickets to be at the Global Awards, March the 1st, London's Eventim Apollo. One huge night. The Global Awards.
With Belvita. Good mornings make a good night.
LBC.
P.C. Flynn. Case CZ31. Suspect chased on foot west on Park Road. Stolen goods recovered. Suspect now detained.
Thanks to our security team keeping our network safe from cyber attacks, PC Flynn can securely send reports back to base when she's on the move, helping her spend more time dealing with the public. Find out more about our security solutions at bt.com/LBC. Be there, BT.
A new Vauxhall Vivaro comes with 4 years 0% APR representative, up to 4 years warranty and 4 years servicing and roadside assistance. It's easy to drive, easy on the wallet and even easier on the eye. That leaves you free to do more of what you do best. Less getting the van sorted, more getting the job done. Search Vauxhall Vivaro. Conditional sale. 4 years 0% APR representative. Minimum 20% deposit plus VAT at 20% on total price. Financed by Vauxhall Finance. Subject to status 18+. T's and C's. Mileage limitations and exclusions apply.
Your pension may have been missold. If a financial professional advised you to move your pension into a SIP, also known as a self-invested personal pension, then talk to Money Redress. They're the experts in pension mis-selling claims with recent wins as high as £50,000. Text WIN to 82344 right right now. We only need basic information to start your claim, and it's no win, no fee. So reclaim your retirement income today. Text WIN to 82344.
The Mail on Sunday is Britain's best-read Sunday paper, with 3 superb supplements. There's our indispensable TV guide, Event. There's our inspirational new lifestyle supplement, Life.
And this weekend in You Magazine, there's also me, Davina McCall, with an exclusive free recipe pull-out from my new book. Delicious, sugar-free, no-fuss, healthy recipes that the whole family can enjoy together.
Live life to the full with this weekend's Mail on Sunday.
Right, I've got a white for fish or red for steak. What are we having?
Pizza?
Bottles of Oxford Landing River Crossing Shiraz and Chardonnay are now just $5.79 each. Co-op. Was $7.79. Participating stores only. Subject to availability. Offer ends 6th March 2018. Please drink responsibly.
Attraction grabs us when we least expect it. In a glance, desire overtakes reason. Fortunately, the Renault Clio Urban Nav with 7-inch touchscreen, rear parking sensors and hands-free keycard now comes with 1 year's free insurance and 3 years 0% APR representative. The Renault Clio Urban Nav, a clever choice, is always more attractive. Visit Renault.co.uk to find out more. Renault Finance subject to status over 18s. Order by March 30th, register by June 30th. T's and C's apply. Participating dealers. Insurance provided by Allianz Insurance, age 21 to 79. Visit Renault.co.uk/Clio Insurance.
This spring, get 2 tickets for £12 to the Legoland Windsor Resort with the Sunday Times. Celebrate the Year of the Brick with 5 new attractions on a day out worth up to £120. Simply collect 4 unique codes. Collect your first code in the Sunday Times this weekend. £1.50 booking fee. Terms and conditions apply.
Jacob Rees-Mogg on LBC.
Hello, this is Jacob Rees-Mogg. I'm standing in for Nigel Farage, which is very appropriate because we're discussing UKIP, and we just had a chat with Henry Bolton, the former leader of UKIP, one of 7 leaders that they've had in the last 18 months, and they're now looking for a new leader. We're very keen that you should join us in this conversation, so do please call 0345 6060 973, text on 84850, tweet at LBC, or you can watch us live on Facebook for those of you of great technological sophistication. But we've got a very interesting caller coming in, a former Conservative Member of Parliament for Tatton, a seat that has very interesting Conservatives. It was held then by George Osborne and now by the absolutely brilliant Esther McVey, one of the finest members of the House of Commons. But this is Neil Hamilton, who is a leading figure in UKIP, a member of the Welsh Parliament currently. Neil, hello, how are you?
Good morning, Jacob. I'm very well, thank you.
Good morning. Are you calling from Wiltshire?
I am, yes, at the moment, yeah.
That's excellent, because Somerset and Wiltshire have a very long-standing association since King Alfred defeated the Danes in 879, so Wiltshire callers are very welcome.
Indeed, when we have the first king of all...
But over to you, what do you want...
And buried locally.
Excellent. So, you've obviously been intimately involved with this. You know exactly what's going on in UKIP. Do you think this spells the end of UKIP as a political party?
No, I think it's a new beginning, actually. Unfortunately, Henry Bolton, I'm afraid, got into a situation where his private life actually prevented us from talking about the things that really matter, like what sort of Brexit we're going to get and what's the future of Britain after Brexit. And he seems to live in a sort of alternative universe. He thinks that although you're the leader of a political party, you can behave in your private life in a way which can be kept away from public view. Well, you and I know that's absolutely impossible. And he showed no understanding of this at any time in the last month, as a result of which the ongoing carry-on farce of his private life was laundered very, very publicly to everybody's embarrassment. And it therefore got in the way of UKIP articulating what its purpose is now, which is something which clearly we must do.
But, Neil, do you think that Mr. Bolton is a symptom or a cause? If he were the only leader who'd got into difficulties, what you're saying would be very powerful. But he's the 7th leader in 18 months, and when you look through what tripped up the other leaders, they were being tripped up for all sorts of extraordinary, simplistic mistakes that you wouldn't expect a professional political party to have in its leadership. So it's not just Mr. Bolton. It's all the others. It's Paul Nuttall who found things difficult. I mean, the names, most of them one forgets, but 7 in 18 months.
Well, I think that over-eggs the pudding, really. The problem has been that Nigel...
There's quite a lot of eggs, though, in the pudding, isn't it?
Well, no, but fundamentally, we've only had one leader since Nigel Farage gave up, and that was Paul Nuttall. We've had a series of interim leaders who, for a variety of reasons, had to be put in place. But we've only had one real leader since then, and Paul Nuttall, unfortunately, he wasn't up to the job.
But you lost one candidate in a punch-up in the European Parliament.
No, but that actually...
we weren't quite this... We never lost... That was a candidate. But you lost a leadership candidate because of punch-up in the European Union. You lost Paul Nuttall because there were questions about the election and all sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, there was no punch-up, actually. That was a complete set-up. Mike Hookham, who was an MEP who was accused of throwing the punch, denies that anything ever happened. So I mean, I think we must concentrate on the realities of this. You know, Nigel Farage was a super dominant leader, a highly dynamic force.
Yeah.
Nobody has had a greater effect than Nigel from outside Parliament since the war, and he was so dominant that he never brought anybody on to succeed him, and we have struggled in the interim. That's certainly true, and also we're the victims of our own success, of course, with the result of the Brexit referendum, and UKIP now has to reorient itself into a domestic...
But Neil, isn't that the key point, that you're a victim of your own success and that the leadership fandango doesn't really matter? What matters is that UKIP achieved the vote to leave, and it doesn't now have a very clear purpose, and once we've left, it's very hard to see what its role will be at all.
Well, not at all, because I lead the UKIP Assembly members in Cardiff, and we operate there in a domestic parliamentary context, in the same way as you operate in a domestic parliamentary context in Westminster, as well as the European issue. And you know, we are daily saying what we believe on the health service, on education, on the environment, etc., etc. And UKIP fought the last general election, of course, on a full UK domestic programme, and we fought the Welsh elections in May.
But nobody was interested, dare I say, in your manifesto at the last election, because people were interested in UKIP to get us out of the European Union, and what you had to say on everything else was entirely secondary, and that's why UKIP's vote went down so badly, isn't it, at the last election, because you'd achieved your purpose?
Well, I think that's right. A lot of people thought that we'd achieved our purpose, but we do have a wider purpose. And we have a vision of what Britain should be like once Brexit has been achieved. We're the only party that's... let me give you a few examples, can I, perhaps, to explain what I mean. You know, we're the only party that really believes in tough immigration control. We're the only party that thinks we should scrap most of the aid budget and put it into the health service. We're the only party in Wales that supports grammar schools, for example. We're the only party who wants to scrap green taxes, which are subsidising forests of windmills that are desecrating the countryside. There are all sorts of policies that UKIP is unique on, which the Conservative Party certainly isn't following us.
But isn't there a feeling that you've invented policies to give yourself something to do because you've achieved your main objective, and that all these policies are deeply secondary?
Well, they're obviously secondary to the overriding objective of recovering our national independence and sovereignty. There can be no more important issue in British politics, I'm sure you would agree, than that. But you know, we will achieve that sooner or later, and then we will concentrate entirely upon domestic political issues and foreign affairs, of course, but principally on domestic political issues. And we do have a particular outlook on the world which none of the other parties completely shares, or indeed shares at all in most cases.
OK, so you think clearly that there is a continuing role for UKIP and wouldn't accept my suggestion that Tory-minded UKIP members should simply rejoin the Conservative Party. Who do you think can lead it, other than Nigel Farage?
Well, I mean, Gerard Batten, I think, would make a perfectly good leader for the longer term. I mean, I don't know who may come forward. I'm not going to come forward myself because I've got a full-time job leading the party in Wales. But I think that's a secondary matter for the time being, actually. What we need to do, first of all, is to fill the gap that you pinpointed a moment ago in people's minds about what UKIP's purpose now is. And as I say,
But you're the one...
have a fully costed manifesto on which we stood in the general election, which was very, very different from the Conservative manifesto in lots of important respects. And there are lots of people in UKIP who were previously in other parties, in the Labour Party, and indeed who've never been involved in politics before. So we are a grassroots movement, very different from established political parties that have been around for a very, very long time. And the Trump phenomenon in America was exactly the same as the phenomenon which created UKIP. You know, we articulate a view which the mainstream established parties cannot do.
And you feel possibly that you may be the right man to do it for an interim period before other people are ready to try and steady the ship and bring some calm to a party you see a bright future for? Could you be persuaded? Will you announce your candidature live on LBC?
Well, the only reason I would do that is for you, Jacob, but I'm not going to.
I'd be very grateful.
Because, because, I mean, I do have a full-time job, in effect, because when the Welsh Assembly is sitting, it's 4 days a week in Cardiff, and I do have a constituency which is 75% of the landmass of Wales, and as a party leader I've got other obligations as well. But I will play my full part as part of a team leadership in UKIP, which is, I think, what we need now. We need the opposite of what Nigel provided, I think, in the short term. You know, we don't want one super dynamic individual to lead the party, because we've got to bring everything together, and we've got a lot of hard work to do to persuade the public that we have a purpose in life post-Brexit. I believe we can do that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for calling in. It's a pleasure to hear from you, and I'm sorry I couldn't twist your arm to throw your hat into the ring. You're listening to Jacob Rees Mogg on LBC, leading Britain's conversation from Somerset. I'm standing in for Nigel Farage. It is almost exactly 11:30, and the news from Amelia Cox.
The former leader of UKIP, Henry Bolton, has told LBC he believes the party is now not fit for purpose and must change in order to survive. He was sacked yesterday after party members backed a vote of no confidence in him following offensive messages sent by his former girlfriend. The sister of murdered MP Jo Cox says the family will support her widower after sexual allegations from his past resurfaced. Brendan Cox has stepped down from 2 charities he set up in his wife's name following her murder in 2016 and says the claims are vastly exaggerated. The government has come to an agreement with the Church of England to use church spires to help boost connectivity in rural areas of the UK. Masts will be put on the top of the buildings. LBC weather, cloudy with outbreaks of rain spreading across the west. The north and east will remain dry and bright, highs of 10 degrees.
LBC travel, it's very slow in Gants Hill in London. The A12 Eastern Avenue eastbound is closed between Ashurst Drive and Cantley Gardens because of an accident. In Walthamstow, Black Horse Road is blocked northbound because of an accident at Forest Road. In Finsbury Park, Seven Sisters Road northbound has 2 lanes blocked at Eildon Road because of an accident close to the station. In the West End of London, road closures are in place because of the Chinese New Year celebrations. That includes Charing Cross Road and Shaftesbury Avenue. And in the West Midlands, it's very slow on the M5 in both directions, going through the roadworks between Junction 3 for Halesowen and Junction 1 for West Bromwich. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC.
If mornings feel a bit like this, time to try something different at breakfast. Something that makes you feel more like this. Tasty Belvita breakfast biscuits are made with whole grain cereals and are perfect as part of a balanced breakfast. Proven to slowly release carbs over 4 hours. Try Belvita for breakfast at home or on the go. Good mornings from Belvita.
We could tell you about our new SUV's luxurious space, but that would limit your imagination. We could describe its beautiful styling, or even shout about its off-road capability, but words wouldn't do it justice. To truly understand Levante, you must talk its language. Levante, the Maserati of SUVs. From £56,250. Available now with tailored finance packages.
The Mail on Sunday is Britain's best read Sunday paper with 3 superb supplements. There's our indispensable TV guide, Event. There's our inspirational new lifestyle supplement, Life.
And this weekend in You magazine, there's also me, Davina McCall, with an exclusive free recipe pull-out from my new book. Delicious, sugar-free, no-fuss, healthy recipes that the whole family can enjoy together.
Live life to the full with this weekend's Mail on Sunday.
Why, hello. It's me, Dracula. Relax. I don't bite much. unlike the cost of some broadband deals. That's why I switched to Sky Fibre Unlimited. Just £25 a month, including line rental, plus a $9.95 setup fee, exclusively for new and existing Sky TV customers. Frightfully good value. It's totally unlimited, super fast, and they'll never slow you down, even at peak times. Well, you don't want anything to stop the flow when you're screaming. Sorry, streaming, do you? Search Sky Fibre. Sky. Believe in better. Available to new fibre customers in Sky Fibre areas. New 18-month contract. Check speeds at sky.com. Further terms apply.
At Wix, there's 15% off all tiles and flooring on top of existing offers, helping you do your project right. Ends Monday. Wix, let's do it right.
Sangeeta used to dread taking meter readings. Tracking Gaz and Lecky meant going into the gloomy depths of the cupboard under the stairs. Last time she emerged with a sore nose, a bruised elbow, and a fuming temper. Fortunately, Sangeeta has just had a smart meter installed, which sends the readings directly to her energy supplier. And an in-home display shows exactly how much energy she's using, so no more trips to the cupboard. Contact your energy supplier today about getting your smart meter at no extra cost.
Steering wheel tappers, the 10 and 2s, Sunday drivers and dislikers of queues, beaded chairs, boombox boots, school runners and dashboard drummers, the singers, the seat adjusters, even the sat-nav addicts.
Take the next left. At Esso, we notice every detail. Whatever type of driver you are, remember to scan your Tesco Club card when you fill up at Esso. Esso. Energy lives here. For more information, visit esso.co.uk.
This week at Tesco, get a large roasting beef joint for half price at £5 a kilo. Tesco. Every little helps. Selected stores excluding Express while stocks last ends 20th February.
Leading Britain's conversation. Jacob Rees Mogg. Tweet at LBC.
Hello, this is Jacob Rees Mogg, leading Britain's conversation. I'm glad to say from Somerset, where Somerset leads, the country follows. I'm standing in for Nigel Farage, and we're discussing UKIP, not surprisingly, in his absence. So you can say what you like, because he's not here to tell you off if you say the wrong thing. You can call on 0345 6060 973, text on 84850, tweet at LBC. So far, all the bigwigs from UKIP have called in. We've had Mr Bolton himself and Neil Hamilton, a former Tory MP, call us. But I thought I'd give you a couple of texts first that we've had flooding into the office. One says, "Hello, Jacob. As a former UKIP member, I've joined the Conservative Party. So well done to Jules from Leicestershire, in the hope of being able to vote in a leadership election. Not so well done, Jules of Leicestershire, because we've got a leader, and Jules would vote for a pro-Leave candidate and doesn't see the relevance of UKIP anymore." But Bill at Gateshead says, "Morning, Jacob. No, UKIP is not finished. We need them now more than ever. If Brexit is reversed or diluted, this country will see the biggest protest vote in the country's history." Well, I certainly agree that Brexit must neither be reversed nor diluted, and that there would be a huge feeling of disillusionment with our democratic process if the vote of 17.4 million people, the biggest vote in our nation's history, were overturned. But now we're going to go to Alex in Ealing. Alex, very interested to hear if you think this spells the end of UKIP as a political party.
Hello, Jacob. Hello. Very good to speak with you. I'm a great fan of yours, actually.
Thank you.
I feel you articulate your points extremely well, and of course you rise above the thuggish lefty students as well. I think that gains you a lot of support and a lot of admiration. On the subject of Henry Bolton, I've actually left UKIP. I was very disappointed when Henry Bolton was first elected back in October last year. In the party conference in Devon, I felt that he wasn't the right person for the job, and nonetheless, I sort of bit my tongue. I kind of wanted to see how well he would do, whether he would make good on his promises to get new party funding, to bring in more donors to the party, to put forward some very meaty, strong policies that people could get behind. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And then, of course, subsequent to that, we've had the whole Joe Marnie scandal, which has been incredibly distracting, I think, because it's distracted, as Neil Hamilton said earlier on your show, before the break, it's distracted from the core message that UKIP should be putting out there. And yes, UKIP does still, I believe, have an important role to play, because, of course, although we have voted to leave the EU, the largest vote, as you said, Jacob, in British history, 17.5 million people voting to leave the EU. We need to now ensure that Brexit means Brexit, that it's not a meaningless vote, but that people get the vote that they voted for. People did not vote for a meaningless SOP. 17.5 million people would not have gone to the polls simply to, vote on something that's meaningless. They wanted us to regain control over our borders, over our fisheries, over all manner of domestic policy areas where at present that we've lost. They want us the people want us to be able to do trade deals all around the world without being encumbered by the protectionist customs union. I mean, you're very much on the same page with all of this, and I think.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. So the question I'd put to you is: do you think that UKIP at the moment needs to be in a state of suspended animation, that its role is basically completed, but it isn't finalised, and that if Brexit didn't go the right way, then there would once again be a role for UKIP? But assuming Mrs May delivers on what she's said, which I expect her to do, that Brexit means Brexit, then UKIP's basically done its job. Is that a fair summary?
No, I don't have the same confidence in Theresa May that you do, and obviously you're a member, a leading MP in the party, so I would expect you to have, or certainly to express that you have full confidence in Mrs May. I do not. I feel that she is a half-hearted Brexiteer at best. She's a technocrat by nature rather than a statesperson, not a statesman. I think we have to say statesperson now, or something ridiculous.
I think we can say statesman.
She doesn't have that great leadership, I think, that people seek in a leader. But more concerningly, on Brexit itself, she has, for example, indicated that the European Court of Justice may continue to have the jurisdiction over the UK after we've left. That is completely unacceptable to us. Obviously, there's the whole issue with the transition period. I don't believe there should be a transition period, that freedom of movement, for example, should end as soon as we leave the EU in March.
I agree with that, yes.
Yeah. And so there is a great deal that the government, in my view, should be pressurised into changing in terms of its Brexit negotiations. I don't think the government, has been robust enough with the EU. We've sort of caved in to far too many of the EU's demands. And I think that, therefore, UKIP does have a role to play. I always make the point...
Well, thank you very much for that. To summarise what you're saying, and some people may hear the crackling fire in the background from where I'm broadcasting, you think that UKIP's there to hold the Conservative government's feet to the fire. That's its main purpose in coming years. I've had a couple of Facebook messages, people watching live on Facebook. One from Maureen, who joined UKIP because of their common sense policies. I wonder if she still thinks their policies are common sense. And a splendid inquiry from Lucy. Have I been asked by Toff to appear on Made in Chelsea? No, I haven't, but I have been asked by the Sunday Times to be interviewed by her, so I'm looking forward to doing that at some point. And Andrew, so I said I'd do two, I'll do three, says he doesn't think UKIP have showed them in a very good light. Oh, and Derek says Conservatives don't want you, Jacob. So there we go, Derek. Thank you for that view. It's very important we get a range of views, keeps Ofcom happy. And now I'm going to go to Nathaniel in Dover. So Dover at the edge, really, of our relationship with the continent, the point where so much trade goes to and fro and people come in and out. So, Nathaniel, you know what's going on. What do you think is going on?
Absolutely. To the point I can see Calais from my bedroom window, is how close we are to France.
Right. Well, Calais used to be English, but we lost it in the reign of Mary Tudor.
God, it's going back a few years, yeah.
It is, one or two.
I'm speaking declaration, by the way. I'm a councillor in Dover District Council, so I'm witnessing firsthand what's going on with UKIP. And we actually had a UKIP councillor resign last night. And to be honest with you, they probably still have a purpose until Brexit has happened, but they've obliterated themselves. They haven't done themselves any favour whatsoever, because our neighbouring council, Thanet District Council, is the only UKIP-controlled council in the UK. And it's that fractured to the point that half of the UKIP councillors voted against their council leader last month and have put a thing of no confidence towards their leader because they rejected the draft local plan the national government set out, which has caused quite a stir in the area, to be fair with you. These guys have pressed the self-destruct button. The minute Farage left, after the last two general elections ago now, they've been on a path of self-destruction, and it's prevalent to see. I mean, you've had, was it 8 leaders in a year?
I think 7, but everyone's losing count. But what you're saying is so interesting. UKIP can't get leaders locally, let alone nationally, without having votes of no confidence in them. It's pretty chaotic, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. We're down to... when I got elected back in May, just gone, in the local elections, UKIP got wiped out in this area. Absolutely wiped out. Most of the votes, unfortunately, went to your party, but Celavi. And it's one of those where all of this infighting, all of the controversies that's been across the media, everyone can't be bothered with it, I don't think. And I think people are switching off to it. And I think they did play an important part in the election. I was an undecided up until the day of election, to be fair with you, because there were so many things to and fro-in. And I feel...
But which way did you go in the end?
I just about went Remain. And the reason I went Remain was actually about the security.
OK, which we've settled yesterday, and that was our earlier discussion. But you're listening to Jacob Rees Mogg on LBC. I'm standing in for Nigel Farage, and it is fractionally after 11:45, a quarter to midday.
Coming up at 12 on LBC, Majid Noir's.
2/3 of UK prisons have been shockingly found to be providing inmates with inadequate conditions. Is it time for a wholesale reform of our prisons?
Majid Noir's on LBC.
If mornings feel a bit like this, time to try something different at breakfast. Something that makes you feel more like this. Tasty Belvita breakfast biscuits are made with whole grain cereals and are perfect as part of a balanced breakfast, proven to slowly release carbs over 4 hours. Try Belvita for breakfast at home or on the go. Good mornings from Belvita.
Attraction grabs us when we least expect it. In a glance, desire overtakes reason. Fortunately, the Renault Clio Urban Nav with 7-inch touchscreen, rear parking sensors and hands-free keycard now comes with 1 year's free insurance and 3 years 0% APR representative. The Renault Clio Urban Nav, a clever choice, is always more attractive. Visit Renault.co.uk to find out more. Renault Finance subject to status, over 18s, order by March 30th, register by June 30th. T's and C's apply. Participating dealers. Insurance provided by Allianz Insurance, age 21 to 79. Visit Renault.co.uk/Clio Insurance.
This week at Tesco, get a large roasting beef joint for half price at £5 a kilo. Tesco. Every little helps. Selected stores excluding Express while stocks last ends 20th February.
Right now at Homebase, all Crown 2.5 litre standard coloured emulsion is just £2 for £22. Homebase, always your home, always low prices. In-store only. Excludes Pure Brilliant White and clearance outlets.
The Mail on Sunday is Britain's best read Sunday paper with 3 superb supplements. There's our indispensable TV guide, Event. There's our inspirational new lifestyle supplement, Life.
And this weekend in You magazine, there's also me, Davina McCall, with an exclusive free recipe pull-out from my new book. Delicious, sugar-free, no-fuss, healthy recipes that the whole family can enjoy together.
Live life to the full with this weekend's Mail on Sunday.
£1 could buy you a couple of minutes at the hairdresser's or a handful of cinema popcorn. Or £1 could buy you a Thunderball ticket for a chance to win £500,000. Bit of a no-brainer, really. Thunderball, only from the National Lottery. For just £1, you could win £500,000. Why not play this Tuesday? Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
All your favourite love songs in one incredible collection, featuring Marvin Gaye, Bruno Mars, Take That. Smooth love songs. Out now at selected Sainsbury's stores.
Climbing trees, chasing cars. There's no telling what your pet will get up to next. So keep them protected with Pets in a Pickle pet insurance. Go to petsinaapickle.co.uk.
Apparently, there are still some people who say they don't want to apply for an Ocean credit card. That's amazing, because there's a credit limit of up to £1,500. Text so you keep control of your spending, and you can see if you'll be accepted before you apply at checkocean.co.uk without affecting your credit rating. But I know the real reason people say they don't want to apply, because they've already got one. To apply for an Ocean credit card, go to checkocean.co.uk. Intelligent Lending Limited is a credit broker. Capital One is the exclusive lender.
A new Vauxhall Vivaro comes with 4 years 0% APR representative, up to 4 years warranty and 4 years servicing and roadside assistance. It's easy to drive, easy on the wallet and even easier on the eye. That leaves you free to do more of what you do best. Less getting the van sorted, more getting the job done. Search Vauxhall Vivaro. Conditional sale, 4 years 0% APR representative, minimum 20% deposit plus VAT at 20% on total price. Financed by Vauxhall Finance, subject to status 18+. T's and C's, mileage limitations and exclusions apply.
Jacob Rees-Mogg on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hello, it's Jacob Rees-Mogg, leading Britain's conversation from Somerset, and in the last quarter of an hour we haven't had any leaders, former leaders or leadership contenders from UKIP call in, which is a pity because we've had a couple of them earlier, or at least one former leader, and Neil Hamilton, who leads them in Wales. We're discussing the future of UKIP, whether it has one at the moment, and we've had lots of messages and text. You can text on 84850 or call on 0345 6060 973. And we've had a great text from Andrea in Virginia Water, who says, "Hello, Jacob. Firstly, few sounds more reassuring than the crackle of a fire, so keep it fed. Secondly, what I absolutely do not understand is why anyone would want to stay in the EU after the way we've been treated since the vote. Have asked one simple question to so many people, and no one, Remainers included, can come up with a single answer, and that is, what have they given us to try to get us to want to stay? The answer is always a bemused silence." Well, Andrew, I think you make a very good point, but we're not allowed bemused silences on the radio because everyone then switches it off. And I want to go to Pam in Tunbridge Wells because I want to find out, Pam, if you'll forgive the terrible old joke, are you disgusted, or what are your views on UKIP? Pam, are you there?
I'm there, and I'm not disgusted at all about UKIP. In fact, I'm very optimistic.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Only because...
What do you think its future is?
Well, it has a future simply because there is a space in British politics, and that space is to speak for the voice of ordinary people in this country, because none of the other mainstream parties are doing that at the moment. The political class has become totally decoupled from ordinary citizens, and UKIP has...
Okay, can I ask you one question on that? I'm always very concerned about this term ordinary people, because I think it sets up politicians as if they're some priestly caste and that there are out there ordinary people. Don't you think everybody is special in their own way, is important, and that ordinary people, dare I say, it's a slightly condescending way of thinking about British voters?
Well, ordinary people are special, and they are individually special. Sadly, the political class don't seem to think that.
Good, yes.
And have sneered at them, the likes of Emily Thornberry, Gordon Brown. You know, they've all had a pop at the people they're meant to represent. So
yes, I do quibble on the use of the word ordinary, because I don't think any British voter is ordinary. I think they are great individual people.
Well, I totally agree with you there, Jacob. But
I think this is... Oh, good, because I think that plays in to this division between the metropolitan elite and the electors is the phraseology around ordinary people, that what one wants to recognise as a Member of Parliament is that the voters are my employer, they're my boss, they're the people I report to, and then you get the relationship between the elected representatives and the electors right.
Well, I think people aren't feeling they are...
Do you agree with that?
Well, I think people feel they aren't being represented properly. And in fact, I think there is a seismic shift in politics across the Western globe anyway. And it's along the lines of this citizen of nowhere, citizens of somewhere. And I think that's what we're saying. It's been sunlit uplands for the citizens of nowhere who have benefited from freedom of movement, mass immigration, nice cheap nannies, nice cheap lattes. It's the citizens of somewhere who've taken the hit on the whole thing. It's them that have seen suppression of their wages. It's them that have seen that they have had to accommodate the 3 million people that have come here. No extra housing's been provided for them. It's them that's had to shove over and make way. And it's them that haven't had a voice.
Yes.
And they haven't had a voice.
But these are the arguments of the referendum, and we've now voted to leave. So what does UKIP do next?
Right. So we now need to address the situation that we need to go back to where we were and find jobs for people, which again has been ignored. We've closed down the mines, we've closed down our industry, and no one thought at any time, what are all the people in the northeast of England, what are they going to do? The Labour government came up with a solution of feeding them with benefits. Well, that hasn't worked because all you have now is completely decimated communities with massive drug problems and benefit dependent. No one sat down at any point and thought, these good people who built our nation, we're dumping them on the slag heap. What are we going to do with them? What have we got to offer instead? And none of the political parties have come up with an alternative in 40 years.
Well,
people like Gordon Brown.
Pam, are you going to announce your candidature to be leader of UKIP? Because you've got a clear programme, which is more than any of the other leaders have had in the last 18 months. I think UKIP probably needs you.
Well, plenty of people.
But I'd better go to
exactly as me.
Well, you put your head above the parapet. I think that's great. So thank you for calling in. And we've had some more messages come in. Carrie says, Jacob, am I burning EU laws or logs? I confess that they are logs rather than EU laws, but no harm in burning the odd EU law. And now I'd like to go to Dennis in Bournemouth. Dennis, are you there in Bournemouth by the seaside?
Yes, indeed I am, yes. Hello?
Well, welcome. Hello, what do you think the future of UKIP is?
Well, I think we've got to stop being distracted by UKIP. They are a spent force, but the interesting thing, there is a job that was done by UKIP, and that's a job that still needs to be done. So it needs to be done by another organisation. Now, we've got Leave Means Leave, which you're a member of. You've got your European Research Group. We've got the Campaign for an Independent Britain and so on. But all these are disparate organisations. We need a constituency-based campaign. We mustn't forget that 600 out of the 650 constituencies, 65% of them, 420, voted to leave. So we do need an organisation, but it needs to be not the Tories, doesn't need to be Liberal or Labour, it needs to be cross-party. And we need someone...
And would this be a movement or a political party?
No, it will be a campaign, a movement.
A campaign group, like Vote Leave or Go?
Well, they need
that
to be
type of movement.
At the moment, Remain is dominating the debate. We've also got this bombshell sitting down the road, the meaningful vote in Parliament, which could scupper Brexit altogether. And what we need...
Well, I don't think it can, actually. I think the meaningful vote is either that we leave with a deal or without a deal. I don't think it can reverse the referendum. That's certainly not in the legislation. And we'd have to rejoin.
Really want to go into that, Jacob. What I'm saying is that there needs to be
a movement,
unified campaign, and we need someone to lead it. Now,
well, I want to get in one more caller before we have to go to the news. So thank you for that. And can I go to Linda in Basildon? Linda, are you there?
Yes, I am, Jacob.
We're very pleased to hear the voice of Basildon, which was so important in the 1992 general election. So, Linda, what's your view on UKIP?
I think it's disappointing that since Nigel Farage left, UKIP have basically focused on internal shenanigans instead of putting together a clear programme, of direction of travel post winning the referendum. Yes, we did secure the leave vote, but what we should have been sort of focusing on almost immediately is what kind of post-Brexit Britain we would like to see. and it's basically I feel like we've thrown away. It's been a lost opportunity, and until such time as they readdress that issue, reform, professionalise, put their policies together, then the 2% in the polls for UKIP won't be heading in the up direction anytime soon.
Well, thank you very much. That's a very helpful view. The voice of reason from Basildon. And I just wanted to read out a view from the New Forest, where two wonderful MPs, Desmond Swain and Julian Lewis, represent strong Brexit views. But this is from Ian Linney, who says, I and many other UKIPers believe that Mr Bolton is a Lib Dem saboteur, a party he belonged to. His plan to finish off the party, now Mr Bolton has been ousted, hopefully UKIP can move forward again. That's an interesting view. This is Jacob Rees Mogg. I've been standing in for Nigel Farage. Coming up at 3, it's Alex Salmond, but next, Majid Nawaz.